Hi, I'm Róisín Ingle and I'm here in Farmerley Estate as part of Dublin City Library's Readers' Morning at Dublin Book Festival, and I am delighted to be here chatting with the amazing Marian Keyes. Hello, Marian.
Hi, Róisín.
Now, everyone will know you for your 35 million books sold, books like Rachel's Holiday, Watermelon, The Break and Grown Ups, which is your latest one, which was hugely successful, and we're going to talk all about that. But first of all, I have to ask you about lockdown, because I've been talking to quite a few writers over the last 6 or 7 months and asking them about what it's been like for them for creativity. And a lot of writers are saying, sure, that's my normal life. I'm locked down all the time. I'm on my own in my garret writing. But what's it been like for you in terms of getting the writing done, and what kind of effect has it had on you in terms of creativity?
I mean, it's true what a lot of writers say, that you know, being on our own is our normal life. But our feelings aren't normal and haven't been normal. And initially it was incredibly difficult for me. Like, I couldn't concentrate at all. Like, I couldn't make anything up, or I couldn't believe in what I was writing. And I know I've said this often, but there's a reason. Because we're all in fight or flight mode, so we're all, our kind of our logical brain is the only part that we will let work, because we need to keep ourselves safe. Like, we're scanning the horizon, like we're looking for predators. And that means that the imaginative side didn't work at all for me. And it also meant, like, you know, loads of people have been talking about having really vivid dreams at this time. So, like, we'd be kind of so conscious and present and sentient all day, and then we'd go to bed, and the imaginative part of our brain is only allowed to work then. So I got nothing done for ages. And you know, I think if it's your job to make things up, it's very weird when you can't. But then I got into a really lovely rhythm. I don't know, maybe 6 weeks in or something. And it was kind of, I mean, I'm an introvert anyway, so it did sort of suit me that I had to be alone in the house all the time. And the makey up part of my head was working grand. And then I hit a huge wall, and it was a huge shock. I realised I was craving people. Like, I was missing rowdiness and going out and being at yokes with lots of people and shouting across the room and saying, I'll be over to you in a minute. Like, and I think, I mean, for me anyway, because I write about people, I need to actually spy on social interaction, even if I can't be part of it. So that was tricky. So things haven't been going as well. I keep thinking, right, okay, this coming Monday, it's all starting again. It hasn't really happened yet. But no, I mean, I think this has been really challenging for everyone, like, regardless of their job.
And so what about your process then, the little bits that you have managed to do? I think people are always really interested in the rituals and the way people write. So are you a get up in the morning, get onto your desk? You have a book called Under the Duvet, which is your non-fiction work, which is a collection of columns. And that's called Under the Duvet because you're in your bed. But you're not still writing in your bed, are you?
No.
I'm very impressed. That's great.
Well, I mean, like, I would never get up, you know, unless I really had to. Like, my bed is the place where I feel safe. And, like, I loved having a job where I never had to get dressed or anything. And people used to say, oh, no, you can't write in bed, you'll wreck your back. And I used to think, no, I won't wreck my back. I am stronger than that. I can defy these medical things. Anyway, I did wreck my back. And then I had to get a special chair made for me. And no, so I have a little desk in the spare bedroom, and I'm mornings. If I don't I'm not good at starting at 3 o'clock in the day. It's too late then. So I'm mornings until I sort of run out of energy, and then in the afternoon there's always other stuff to do, not related to whatever book I'm working on.
Like Twitter.
Twitter. Now, yes, exactly. And lately, Instagram as well, yes. I mean, they are very, very urgent pieces of work.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's awful. I'm so distractible. But I suppose I feel that I have only so much energy on a particular, on any day, or so much kind of creative, so many words, that's what it is, on any day. And also it's that kind of thing that they're not cumulative. Like if I don't use them today, they won't carry over till tomorrow. It's just a kind of a one-off thing every day. So it's kind of worth my while to try and do it every day.
And how has your mental health been in lockdown as well? Because that's something else you have been so helpful to people about, in normalising it. And thank God for the fact that we talk about it more, like it's a normal thing, because it is. It's like anything else, any other health issue that we have. So how did lockdown affect you in that way?
All kinds of ways. Like, I mean, to be honest, I mean, my first huge worry was when all the AA meetings started to close. And I was thinking, you know, I won't be able to stay sober without them. But they're all on Zoom. Like, it's fabulous. You know, that has been such a help. And then, like, I've gone through, like, you know, the fear of everyone I love dying. You know, like, my mother is vulnerable. And then I thought, you know, I'm not that young anymore. You know, like, I still think I'm like 17, but I'm not. And like, there's that shock of kind of realising, oh my God, I'm in my late 50s and so is my husband. And, you know, that's kind of shocking. It's been up and down. It hasn't been great. I don't think it has for anyone. You know, and I've had times when it's been fine because I've managed to pretend it's not really happening. But I've always been aware that, like, that there are options if it gets too bad. Like, you know, going back on a higher dose of the anti-mads or antidepressants, as some of us like to call them. You know, and, you know, to kind of be aware that, like, there's no shame in the fact that, like, yeah, there's a global pandemic going on and everything feels a bit odd. You know, the wise person said to me, you know, because I was freaking out about, like, not being able to do the amount of work I'd normally do, and she was like, the love of Jesus, you know, there's a global pandemic going on. Why are we expecting ourselves to function as usual? So that was a great help.
So you didn't learn to play the ukulele?
I didn't, and I although my conversational Korean is coming along very slowly.
I'm delighted to hear it.
Well, you are playing the ukulele.
Yes, I learned the ukulele in lockdown.
Oh my God.
Yes, thank you very much. And
You
my
are.
conversational Korean is excellent as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm a failure.
Yeah, that's, no.
I didn't maximise my lockdown free time.
But no, in fairness, you have written 14 books in your life, so I think you're okay. You don't need to do anything else. Speaking of which, Grown Ups is your latest, and it was so successful, and it was #1, and, you know, it got such a great feedback. That must be brilliant. I mean, because you've been doing it a while, and every time it must be kind of the anticipation of the audience that you're writing for.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lovely publication. It was a lovely, like, it really was. Yeah, because you never know. And, like, I'm such a pessimist that you know, at the beginning, when my first book came out and people were nice about it, I thought that's really incredibly kind of them, but they don't have to do it a second time. It's fine. They've done it once and I really enjoyed it. So I've been constantly waiting for, I don't know, the other shoe to drop. But the publication of Grown Ups, people were so, you know, the kind of the friends of your mother's that you'd meet now and again, and they'd say, aren't you a great girl now? And, like, I don't read your books now. They're not for me at all. They're not for me. I just don't like them.
I love the way they have to tell you that. It's great,
and I
isn't it?
tried one in particular, and the language offended me so much. And but these women who would be very open about my flaws and failings, they were like, that was a good book. Do you know, that was a good girl, Marian. You did that well. There was something different about it, and I think it's just the fact that I've been doing this for 25 years, and I think you learn things on the job. And there was something about it, I think maybe the huge age range of the characters, that there was something for everybody. It just had a wider appeal, I think, and one reviewer, I think it was The Guardian, who's still my beating heart, called it a mature book.
Wow.
And it was like, you know, and it did feel a bit mature.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose this is, I don't know, maybe interesting. It's probably the least funny of all my novels. And it wasn't deliberate, but people have been urging me, people like the friends of my mother's, you know, who would say, now, all that humour and laughing. Marian, if you could just tone it down a bit, people would take you more seriously. Maybe they were right.
Well,
maybe they were right.
I'm not sure about that anyway. I think
but the thing is, it is what it is. And I didn't write the book thinking I want to appeal to people or I'll tone down the humour.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those happy accidents. I write all my books with as well as I can.
Yeah.
And sometimes something does.
You certainly weren't writing for the friends of your ma
no,
anyway.
No.
It's great that they liked it. I'm delighted.
Was great.
But it is a sprawling book, like you said, a big family, big messy family, and it starts with one of the characters having a bang to the head, and as a result starts telling the truth, which is something that in life you don't always want to be doing, telling people what you really think instead of what they'd like to hear.
Yeah.
And that's based on a real thing that happened to one of your friends.
Yeah, no, it was a woman I worked with. She was one of my publicists, and she got concussion, and she was suddenly, I thought she'd had a personality change initially because she was really narky. And she, you know, and in professional situations especially, you have to pretend to be nice even if you're in bad form. And she was like, oh no, I don't like that. No, I don't want to sit here. No, I don't, no, you know, and she was, I was thinking, what on earth is wrong with her? And it came out like a couple of days later that she had concussion, and suddenly she had no filter. So she wasn't able to do that kind of social veneer that we all do, or the lies. I don't even know if lies are the word.
Half-truths,
yeah, kind of a dishonest,
niceties.
Yeah, a dishonest, honest version of ourselves that we put out there in the world in order to kind of smooth social and professional interactions.
Yeah, exactly. And so this happened and it inspired you to kind of create somebody.
I just thought, because I think in any group of people, whether it's work people or a family or a group of friends, there will be things that you can't say. You know, somebody will drive you mad. You know, a particular thing they do will drive you insane. And you know that you can't say it because it will cause a row, or it'll open a gap, or it'll wound them in a way that it'll rupture things in a way that can't be repaired. Or there will be other times when you feel very inappropriately fond of another person. And you can't say that either, because either it'll be misconstrued or else it won't be misconstrued. And you'll have opened a situation. So I was interested in all the things that go on beneath the surface, those kind of snarly little flashpoints that are kept tamped down by the veneer of, I don't know, white lies or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought, well, what if something got in there and started bringing them all to the surface? Like, would it help? Would the truth set us free? Or is the chaos kind of created, is that just too uncomfortable?
And it's all those skeletons and secrets in a family that everybody has.
And everybody...
Of course, not our families, everybody else's family.
Well, the thing is, you see, I think everybody has this kind of secret chamber in their heart where they think, my family is really, really dysfunctional.
Totally.
We are like particularly odd in the most unglamorous, embarrassing, shameful ways. They don't make funny stories, like it's not good or attractive. I think everybody feels like that. There's things that we do that really I wouldn't want anyone to know about. But actually every family is like that. You know, even the shiniest, glossiest, best looking, Calvin Klein wearing, polite, nice teeth having families. You know, every family, I think it's impossible for any group of people to be sort of linked without an awful lot of texture.
And you mentioned age gaps as well. So Jessie is the oldest character, and then there's Nell, the youngest. And it's interesting their priorities as women at the different stages of their lives. You were interested in that too.
Yeah. I mean, like Jessie she has her 50th birthday in the book, and Nell is 30. And they are like light years apart from each other, because Jessie is, I mean, I've never really uttered this before, but I feel she'd vote Fine Gael. You know, I'm awfully sorry. But like, she'd be, you know, she's the kind, the party who get up early in the morning. You know, the hard work and the pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps and that, like, I mean, okay, Jessie is good to her staff, and Jessie would never think poor people are poor because they deserve it, you know. But she would have that kind of, she's not bleeding heart in any way, that it's all about you get what you deserve, and if you don't have it, you don't deserve it. And I mean, and she is like this arch consumer, like she defines herself by how much money she spends. And also it's how she it's how she shows her love and how she sort of shackles people to her as well by spending money. Whereas Nell is a millennial, she's worried about the planet, you know, because she'll be living on it after Jessie is gone. And Nell she doesn't buy new clothes. She loves her job. She's a theatre set designer. But even that is something it's quite, not intangible, but it doesn't last. You know, and she's not in it for the money. She's in it for the passion of like creating something beautiful. And like she was inspired by my beloved niece Emma, who I talk about a lot, who's younger than Nell. Emma is 20. But I just thought it was funny that, I mean, 20 years maybe isn't that much between the two women, but their priorities are enormously different.
Yeah.
And I do think there is this schism. I know there's always generation gaps and that like the young people think the older people are like a crowd of clueless fools who are, you know, out of touch and know nothing. But I actually think there is a real gap between, I suppose, the under 30s and, say, I don't know, the over 45s. And it is about the future of the planet.
Yeah. It also makes me think on a different note about that age gap, about what we think when we're 30 and how it changes. And I'm just thinking about Caitlin Moran's book, More Than a Woman.
Yeah.
And in her book, she talks about how in How to Be a Woman, which was the big, huge, successful feminist tome, she talked about, you know, how Botox wasn't good and she wouldn't think it was very feminist. But in this book, it's out now actually, she's talking about how she's had Botox and how she looked at her, you know, some people have resting bitch face and she just felt she looked tired all the time. And a little bit of Botox has kind of helped her, and she's sort of admitting that she was, you know, she thought one thing, she's wrong, and as she got older she had a different perspective, and I think her changing her mind is really interesting, and you've spoken about that as well.
No, absolutely, like all of that, like I absolutely loved. I mean, it was such a relief when she said that she'd had Botox. It's like, oh my God, if she's had it, like we can all come down from the hills, you know? Yeah, because I had always said that I wouldn't have Botox for lots of reasons. One, because, well, when I said it, I was younger.
Yeah,
and I was
I think that was Caitlin's thing as well.
Like, what's wrong with getting old? You know, blah, de blah, you know. And then one of the other reasons is that my face is wildly asymmetrical. And like, I don't have resting bitch face. I have resting cubist painting face. Like I am so, no, seriously. And I thought like,
I'm looking now.
I need to keep my face in constant motion before I start looking like I am all off angles, like I really am. And I thought, like, if my face is fixed, that like you'd be able to see it all. But then I got these huge furrows between my eyebrows that like you could plant potatoes in. Like you wouldn't need an allotment. You could just use the furrows between my eyebrows. And it made me look really narky. Like it made me look really disapproving. And I thought, feck this. So I got Botox. I love it, you know. And then people were saying, oh, God, you look so young. Like, what skincare do you use? And I was thinking, I use the skincare of going to the person every 6 months and getting the needles in my face. How can I tell them that without... But anyway, I said it and the world didn't end. But yeah, coming back to that, like, when we're young, well, I suppose, unless we've experienced something, do we have any right to comment ever? Does a woman of 27 have the right to say, I'll never have Botox, you know? Or does a man of 27 have a right to say women should never have Botox? You know, because until you have been the person who suddenly has the potatoes growing between her eyebrows, you don't know how bad that feels until you're feeling it. And also, I love the thing that she changed her mind in public, because that's another thing that has become forbidden in public life. You know, you take your position whenever, at the age of 17. You know, you set out your stall and you're expected to defend that. But like, life changes, we change, we mature, we experience different things, we rub up against pain that we hadn't expected to. And suddenly we find ourselves thinking differently. And then if somebody in public life says something at 17 and then something else at 31, it's like, hypocrite and liar, and I refer to, and then they retweet their tweets from like 14 years ago, and that aged well, and stuff like that. And it's just, we need to be more reasonable, you know.
I mean, people are being cancelled. I put it in inverted commas. It's so wearying, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
I'm waiting to be cancelled.
Yeah, have you not been cancelled yet, Marian?
Not fully. No, I've had mini cancellations, but the big one hasn't arrived yet. But look, it's only a matter of time, because sooner or later, everyone, in the future, everyone will be cancelled, as Andy Warhol
for 15
didn't
minutes.
say. Yeah, exactly. Everyone will be cancelled for 15 minutes. Yeah. The cancellation will not be televised.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, tell us about the Comedy in Fiction Prize that you started, because I know that those friends of your mother were saying, with the humour now, stop it. But to me, what a Marian Keyes book does is make me laugh, and laugh out loud, and the joy that you bring. And I'm always banging on about this because Paul Howard and Russell Carroll Kelly and various other people who write really funny books, I don't believe people get the credit for the humour. I think it's very hard to do in a way that's actually real and authentic and consistent. I think it's really difficult, but it's not held up there in the way some other things are. So you sort of saw that men were getting a lot of the sort of kudos for this.
A couple of things happened simultaneously. Helen Lederer, who is a stand-up comedian and a fabulous woman, she got annoyed about the fact that women who write comic novels weren't being recognised. Simultaneously, the prize for comic, there's one big prize for comic fiction. It's called the Woodhouse Bollinger Prize, and I write comic novels. And I have never been longlisted, never mind shortlisted. And over the course of 15 years, women won it 2.5 times. One year they had to share the prize with an equally funny man. And I was at Hey On Why, I think it was probably 3 years ago now, and people were talking about prizes, and I said, you know, I mind about that one because I am funny. Anyway, that happened to be recorded, and suddenly it went sort of, you know,
you're making headlines all over the place.
Yeah. And around that time, Helen Lederer said, "I'm setting up a prize. Will you be a judge? And it's only going to be for female novelists who write comic novels." So the first prize was in 2019, and I was one of the judges. And then in 2020. I was the chair of the judges, and it was such a wonderful thing in a million different ways. Like, I mean, I got to read, as chair, I got to read all 90 submissions, and it was such a mixed bag. And I mean, it was just, from literary fiction to kind of farcical fiction to wonderful wordplay with language. There was such a wealth of novels that were offered. And I'm working with the other judges. Like, there were 5 amazing women from various fields of comedy. And it's just given me a huge amount of pride to be associated with the prize. I mean, and it's a small prize. We're crowdfunded. We don't have a sponsor, but I think it has made a stand.
Yeah.
It really has kind of stuck a flag for women's comic writing in the ground, and I think it'll change. It will slowly change people's opinions.
I think you caused a little bit of a furore as well by saying that you were only reading women. He said, "I know men write books, but their lives are so limited."
I did say that. Now, it was tongue-in-cheek. However, I was echoing what real men have literally said, not tongue-in-cheek, about women's books. It did cause, because obviously in these clickbait times, she said wearily, people will lift quotes like that and present them as if I meant it. Having said that, I mostly read women, and that is, for 2 reasons. One is I really like them, and I think there are so many amazing women writing at the moment, like established authors and new authors. I mean, I never have time to read as much as I want to, even though I read an awful lot. There's so much to read, and I love that. And also because books written by men still outsell books written by women in huge amounts, because male readers will almost never read novels written by women. Like they'll do, you roll out your Hilary Mantels or your Kate Atkinsons. You know, there are a couple of women that have been kind of scrubbed up and presented as, this is fine, this is palatable for the sophisticated male reader, but most, they just won't, because they have been socialized into thinking that books by women are about romances or things that just aren't important.
I was talking to Nick Hornby recently, and he said a very interesting thing about when he wrote How to Be Good. He wrote the narrator as a woman for the first time, and it was because exactly that he just found himself finding that men's struggles and things were very much internal, and that he found that women face more obstacles and external things that are more interesting to write about. So he started writing about women because of that thing, that he found women's lives more interesting. But he also said something else that I thought was really good, and it was about popular writing. So you're obviously very popular, and Nick Hornby's very popular, and sometimes there's a snootiness about that, and he doesn't care about that at all, because he says popularity wins every time. Okay, you might be overlooked for the Booker, you might get some snooty reviews in the Times or wherever else, but all the best people, all the most successful people in history were popular in their day. If you think about Shakespeare, Dickens, Aretha Franklin or Jane Austen or any of these. And I love that idea, because we've talked a lot recently about the snobbery around Say What You Do sometimes, people not appreciating it as much. But what do you feel about that now? Have you kind of moved on your thinking on that?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't like being patronised. And I don't see why I should have to swallow it. Just because there are rules that I didn't make, and that that there are categories that I'm not able to fit in. I honestly feel that the whole popular literary thing, you could almost put the blueprint over the male-female divide. I think when books are made fun of, they're usually books by women. It's difficult, because personally, I feel incredibly grateful for the readers I have. And I feel so lucky that I'm able to write the books I do. And I suppose I generate my own respect. I'm very proud of what I do. But I really don't think it should be allowed past, somebody being snide about other people's books simply because they don't fit into a category or into a way of writing that somebody has deemed is acceptable. It's like, I've read an awful lot of rubbish literary books, and nobody, and I've let them be. I haven't come after them. I haven't slagged them off in public. It's still that thing of, who elected them, the arbiters of what's good and bad? And until they shut up, I don't think popular writers should turn the other cheek. And I don't know if that's controversial or not. It's just, I'm bored with being patronised. And I'm not speaking personally really anymore. I feel like I'm talking on behalf of a huge cohort of writers. Is that a bad answer, Róisín?
No, it's a very good answer. It's excellent. Yeah, I think it's very clear.
I've got too old to pretend to not mind.
Absolutely, fair enough. Let's talk about Between Ourselves, because
Oh,
you and
yeah.
Tara Flynn have this amazing radio show that you've had a first season of it. It was really popular, and it's been commissioned for a second one.
Yes, it's been the most, do you know, one of those things that kind of happens, it starts off small and you think, I don't know, will anything ever come of it? Yeah, this lovely man, Steve Doherty is his name, knows Tara kind of from the comedy circuit. And he is the man who produces the David Sedaris books on Radio 4. And like, it's a hugely successful series that he does. And he read some of my non-fiction and he just thought, maybe, I don't know, would this work? And he got in touch with me and he said, would you be agreeable, you know, if I pitched to BBC 4? And I thought, there is no way on earth Radio 4 would ever have me. I thought, work away, you know, via con Dios, like, you know, open to the universe, but really not expecting anything. And they said yes. And it was really small. It was me, Tara and Steve. You know, we worked from my non-fiction, like we did 4 shows with a live audience. And it was just, do you know when you know that feeling when you get with the hairs all, and it was a magical thing. And it went out just over a year ago. It got huge ratings and it got great reviews. And then it was recommissioned for the second series. And then they reran it. And as Steve said, it's you know, radio moves slowly apparently, you know, but to have, you know, a series out, a repeat and a new commission is kind of unheard of. And it has just, and you know, I suppose another lovely thing is, you know, to have 2 Irish women on Radio 4.
Yeah.
It has felt very, it felt very endorsey. You know, it has felt
validatory.
Really validatory, yeah. And it has been lovely working with both of them.
Yeah.
And it's just us. Do you know, there's no big team or anything. I mean, obviously, Tony, my husband, he is the person that I will always get advice from and you know, use as a soundboard. But it's just one of those little gem things that just, yeah, it's been gorgeous. Really, really lovely.
Great. I'm going to come to a couple of questions from people who've sent them in.
Okay.
But also, tell me about a couple of books you've read during lockdown, because you talked about your creativity being slightly stifled, but how has your reading been? Because I think reading has been such an escape for people in the last 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, people have been reading twice as much as they would normally. I've read so many great books. There's a book called Lovers and Writers by an American writer called Lily King. I cannot tell you how much I adored it. Like, I adored it so much. And you know, when you read something you love and then you discover that they have a backlist. So I'm reading her stuff as well. The new Louise O'Neill is a marvel. It's called After the Silence, and it's such a mature book. Like, I've loved her earlier books. Reading the new Tana French at the moment. I mean, I devour everything she writes. I mean, she is just so great. An American writer called Britt Bennett. She's written. She's an African American writer. It's a book called. Oh God, forgive my head. The first one's called The Vanishing. This is the second half. They're such great books. It's been a great time for books.
And when can we expect the next Marian Keyes, and what is it?
It's allegedly February 2021.
Wow, that's...
It's a far way away. I know, but I am
No, it doesn't feel far away. It feels very close.
What do I mean that? No,
I think
22.
you mean 22.
I do. I'm so sorry about that.
I was getting excited.
No.
I was thinking,
Jesus.
wow.
Oh, could you imagine? Thank you for that. Bad at sums. It's a sequel. Yeah, it's the first real sequel I've ever done, and it's a sequel to Rachel's Holiday.
Which is just, oh my God, there's going to be riots in the bookshops, I think, when that comes out.
Do you know, I mean, it's delicious writing it. Like, it's just lovely being back with those characters.
Yeah. Well, come quickly to the questions. Caroline Murphy asked, do you have a favourite character in Grown Ups?
Oh my God, I love Nell, which is she's the
Millennial.
The millennial, yeah. I love Johnny as well, the eldest husband. I feel so sorry for him. He's such a kind of a handsome, twinkly alpha on the outside, and he is just riddled with insecurities and doubts, and his wife earns more than him, and he has to do all the housework, and I like him because he is so vulnerable despite everything. I liked them all though.
And we'll end with this one from Grania White. She's asking what the best part of writing Grown Ups was, but also maybe what has been your favourite book to write so far?
You know, in a way, Grown Ups was a pleasure to write because I knew the plot. I mean, I had an overall kind of, didn't know the details and everything. I loved having all the characters to play with, like, and all the different. Yeah, I think the range of characters, having them to play with, was probably the most exciting part. Then there was the second part of the question you asked me.
I was just asking which of your novels has been your favourite yourself.
I mean, I wouldn't really have a favourite, although I'm feeling really good about the one I'm writing at the moment. It's just, being in that world is really enjoyable.
Back with the Walshes.
Back with the Walshes. Back with Rachel and Luke. Yeah, so long as I don't ruin it.
You won't ruin it, Marian Keyes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.